Hi guys, so just a few things to mention before I actually get started with this video. Yes, I've got very different hair. I think this is the first time you guys are seeing me on video with this hair. I am planning to make a video all about it and kind of how I care for it and all that sort of stuff, so look forward to that, hopefully coming sometime in December. And second, I'm probably going to be taking part in the December a year-a-thon, which is usually the first full week of the month. I can't remember the dates, so I'll just put them here, but it's usually like during the December time. It's graphic novels, picture books, just light reads to help boost up your Goodreads goal. So I'm like 8 books behind. I've been 8 books behind for a couple of months, so hopefully the graphic novels and kind of lighter books will help me surpass that. So I think the bookish section of this video is going to be pretty quick because all of them the majority of them I've got reviews for already, so I'm just going to whiz through that and then go on to the films and movies and TV shows and stuff that I watched during November. So let's get cracking. First book I read was The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I finished this early on in the month and I've got my review up. I'll link that somewhere around the video, and I also watched the film I think the month before, so I'll link that as well if you guys are interested in watching that. So I'll go into all my thoughts in there. If you prefer to read what I thought about the book, then my Goodreads link is down below as usual. But I believe I gave that a 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I finished reading The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I do have a review going up for this in December, I believe. I think it's set to be released on the 12th of January, but I'm pretty sure I give the right date in that video, so look forward to that if you want to know more. But just briefly, it's kind of like a folklore fantasy sort of thing, set in medieval Russia. It's really, really cool, so as I said already, look forward to that review because I think it was a great book, which shows my ratings because I gave it a 4 stars too. And then I've got a physical book to show you. This is The Tales of the Peculiar by Ransom Riggs. This was a new release on September. I think it came out September 12th actually, and I was on that. But again, I've got a review coming up for this. Stay tuned for that video if you want to know my thoughts about this. It's Ransom Riggs' newest book, and it's kind of about the stories set in the peculiar world, kind of like their myths and legends and sort of stuff. Again, I gave it a 4 stars. So far all these books have been getting 4 stars, and I'm really happy actually because it's been a really good reading month, and even though I've only read 4 books, it's definitely an improvement from the last few months where I've been reading like nothing or like 1 book here and there. So I'm really happy I've managed to delve more into my reading enjoyment. So the last book, which I literally have just finished, and this is going up on the day that I am filming this, so yes, but I just finished This Sisters Brothers by Patrick DeWitt, and I do not have a video going up on this, so I'm going to go more into depth about my thoughts for this book. This story, oh my god, it was absolutely amazing. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars, and again, it was another read that is definitely out of my comfort zone, as was with The Girl on the Train. Both genres that I've never read before, and you know, they both took me by surprise. This one just blew my mind away. I really did enjoy it. So you're probably wondering, well, you enjoyed it so much, Jen, what the hell is it about? Basically, we are following the infamous Sisters Brothers, which is kind of awkward to say, and they're kind of like cowboy mercenaries, so they kill as their job sort of thing. They get paid to go out and kill their boss's enemies sort of thing. And we are reading from the perspective of Eli, which is the youngest brother out of the 2, and he's kind of got it in his mind that he's wishing for a simpler, easier, you know, more humble life, and he kind of wants to give up on the killing, murderous life of the 2 brothers. Charlie, the older brother, is not so keen on that idea, and you get that vibe for a lot of the story. And it's kind of like, regardless of Eli's feelings about wanting to quit and everything, he still has this anger that his brother can manipulate and kind of make him almost do these jobs, and to an extent Eli still kind of enjoys it, which is really strange. So it's got that warped sense of mentality there. I think I actually mentioned this in my written review, but it felt so real and so vivid and like, I guess, pure. I actually thought it was based off of real events of the Sisters Brothers, but I did some research and apparently they don't exist, so maybe the author just went above and beyond to get kind of factual evidence background to really make his story have substance, which I think he's really done. And to be honest, it's no wonder why it was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize of 2011. It didn't win, but I don't know what other books were up in the running for that. I don't really follow that too much, but I know it's a good prize to win. I really love the feeling of the narration because it felt kind of awkward, but it was just written so beautifully and it just flowed so wonderfully, and it also gave gave me kind of feelings of how I felt when I read The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon, I believe it was. It kind of had that strange feel to it. I don't know how to describe it any more than that, like giving that as an example. For those of you who've read that book, you might know what I mean. But everything was just so elegantly like displayed, despite what the story was about. You know, you kind of go into a cowboy book, I guess, thinking it's going to be guns blazing, all that blah blah blah, murder, blood, whatever, but it's just so beautifully written, and I can't express that enough. It's really well written. I didn't give it a 5-star completely because there were some build up to a point where I knew I should have felt kind of like a flourish of emotion, and I just didn't get it to that extent. So for me, that lacklustered a little bit, but at the same time not so much to not give it a high rating. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like if we had that oomph and I had that obvious emotion come from me from reading that passage, it would have definitely have got a 5 stars, but it just fell a little bit short for me there. But regardless of that, this was a wonderful story. I really recommend it, especially if you've never read anything in this kind of genre before, because for me this was my first time reading anything like this, and I really loved it. I found the beauty in it despite what it was about, you know. So really recommend this. Really good, strong book. And yeah, that's it for the book section of this video. So I'm now going to go and talk about the kind of things like TV stuff that I watched and, you know, films I watched during November. Before I actually continue with this part of the video, I just want to quickly mention that I watched the first like 40 minutes of the World of Warcraft movie. I think it was World of Warcraft The Beginnings or something, and although from what I saw it was very visually stunning, it was absolute shit. Maybe I'll give it another attempt eventually. You guys should tell me what you thought of it if you've seen it, but for now I'm just gonna keep it behind and not think about it for a while because it was quite disappointing for the footage that I saw. Let's continue. So the first film I successfully watched in November was Doctor Strange, which of course I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. This was a new Marvel film about a arrogant Dr. Stephen Strange who loses the ability to operate and perform his surgeries after a freak accident. It's basically about his journey in finding other ways to kind of regain that ability, and as well as that, accidentally stumble into a world of spirit and power. I thought this movie was absolutely phenomenal. The visuals were honestly trippy as fuck, but it was entirely mesmerising and just superbly done. It was really impressive. Just oh my god, just thinking about it gets me all excited again. All the characters were like both lovable and hateable in the most perfect way, and it had just that awesome balance there. And of course Mr. Stanley had to get his signature cameo right up in there. I wasn't expecting the type of humour that we got, but it was absolutely hilarious. There were scenes where I was just full on laughing. The whole cinema viewing it, like the whole room that I was in, was in hysterics, and it was just like quite a nice feeling actually that we were all sharing that moment together. I don't know why I got a little bit emotional there. Oh, and if for some reason you do still get a chance to see it in the cinema, maybe in one of those weird little studio rooms, don't run off. There is a mid-credit scene as well as an end-credit scene, so you know, stay for those parts. For the entire film I was oohing and ahhing. That was equally to do with both the wonderfully delivered plot, characters, casting, and also just beautiful visuals. So definitely a must-see from me, especially if you're a fan of the superhero, supervillain kind of universe. Next up is kind of a weird one. I'm reviewing Planet Earth 2, which I think has made a comeback after like maybe 10 years or something. I don't think I followed the first series, but this one is for part 1, which was about remote islands, because in my head I thought, oh, it's a single documentary, and I got to the end and I was like, there's more in this series, what? So yeah, I just got a review for the first episode, but keep in mind I am loving it so far. This of course got a 5-star as well. As I mentioned earlier, David Attenborough is back after 10 years away from this series with a second installment of Planet Earth. I just loved how everything was shot, and it kind of felt like a story, and I just loved how smoothly each part about one species transitioned into another species. I think my favourite part of that episode was about the lemurs and the penguins as well, and I really enjoyed the little diary segment at the end about how the crew managed to film the penguins with their trials and tribulations, and of course David Attenborough had to narrate that part too. Even though it was, I mean, I'd consider the kind of making of section, it was still nice to have him narrate what they were going through and that sort of stuff, you know. It just gave it that added touch. To be honest, anything that David Attenborough documents just feels epic and magical. He's just got that voice, hasn't he? And just the way everything's set out is just perfect. So yeah, just so you know, I have been watching the rest and I've been loving them just as much as the first episode. So yeah, up to date on that. Lastly, I watched something that came on Channel 5 recently, and it is a long title, so just reading my notes. The Freddie Mercury story, Who Wants to Live Forever, but it was also called The Great Pretender Revealed. I think it went by 2 names, I'm not too sure. So as I said, this was a Channel 5 documentary kind of documenting the life and death of Freddie Mercury. I believe it was his birthday or something, and that's why there was quite a few like Queen things going on. I think that night, or that, yeah, I think it was that same night or something, they were doing something on Sky Arts where they were showing like old Queen performances and old Queen tribute acts and stuff. So yeah, it was really, really cool. But back to this. I really loved how it flitted in and out of real footage and dramatic reenactment, and how smoothly it did that as well, actually. I actually read that a lot of people disliked this documentary, criticising it as displaying kind of wooden acting and being disrespectful in that sense. I can actually see what they mean in terms of the acting, because some of it was a little bit awkward and a little bit stiff and didn't flow as well as it could have done. But I thought the whole production was just wonderful and really was emotional for me. And it actually gave me a lot of information that I never knew about Freddie Mercury. Kind of more, I guess, an in-depth look at his life and kind of what led to his death and stuff. So I didn't really know too much about him, I just like his songs. So yeah, that was my little wrap up in terms of what I read, what I've been watching. You guys should let me know what you've been up to during November, if you've got any fun books that I should read or fun shows I should catch up on, or films or whatever. And for now, I shall leave you with your evening, or whatever time it is when you're watching this. So I will speak to you next time. Bye. Who wants to live forever?